Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Carl's Christian Podcast. It's been a long time, but we're back and we're reacting to. I saw this video on my feed and it says Pastor Terrorized arrested for reading the Bible aloud scores complete victory. So we're gonna read this. We're gonna see what's not read. We're gonna watch this, see what it's all about. And yeah, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new.
You've been handling a very interesting case surrounding a Seattle pastor who was arrested a couple of years back for reading the Bible in public. He has now
Yep.
been vindicated. Can you tell us a little bit about this story?
I can. It's really a fitting end
And this is America too. This is arrested for reading the Bible in America. Reading
to
the Bible
an
aloud.
outrageous situation, Billy. What had happened was the city of Seattle effectively made reading the Bible aloud a crime. And it first occurred on
And that's sorry, I'm not gonna try to pause it a lot, but that's kind of crazy how this world. I mean, not this world. America was built on Christian values, Christian foundation, and reading the Bible aloud is illegal in Seattle. Like does that not sound crazy?
June 24, 2022. I don't know if that date sticks out to you, but that was the date that the U.S. Supreme Court rendered the Dobbs decision. That was a decision that overturned Roe versus Wade. So that there was this huge rally protest going on in downtown Seattle. And Pastor Meineke thought this would be a perfect opportunity to share the gospel. So he took his Bible and he goes out there to read the Bible. He has very earnest pro-life beliefs, but that was not his purpose. He really just wanted to share the gospel. So he turned to the book of John, chapter 1, verse 1, and started reading. But it was not received well. Some protesters.
Yep, protesters. Everyone gets mad as soon as he starts reading out of the Bible. Starts reading chapter John, chapter 3. For God so loved the world that he sent his only Son, that whosoever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. It's kind of crazy though how people. I don't know. It's like, I guess, yeah. Let's finish watching it.
Started to crowd in around him, started saying some inflammatory, derogatory things, made him feel uncomfortable. So
Persecution
he
in
moved off.
America.
He didn't want a conflict, so he moved off a few feet away to a new spot. But then at that spot, some protester grabbed his Bible and started ripping the pages out of it. Right.
This is America. This is America for your information. In Seattle.
Undeterred, Pastor Meineke retrieved a second Bible and just resumed his reading.
Second Bible.
And he was able to do that for a while. But that's when Antifa members got involved and they became physical. They started to pick up Pastor Meineke.
Honestly, I forgot Antifa existed.
Horse to keep them from doing that. But they picked up him and the sawhorse, walked over about a block and a half away, and then just dropped Pastor Meineke on the concrete.
So look, this is America. This is Seattle. They took this pastor, and first I want to know, where's the police at? Where is Antifa? I guess I gotta look up what Antifa is again, but I'm pretty sure it's like I don't even know, some mob group. I'm gonna call them that. I'm pretty sure that's what they are based on the description in this story. And they're taking the pastor all the way down the road, him and his sawhorse. Like, okay.
Was he fighting back during this at all? I mean, what was he doing while
what are you supposed to
picking
do?
him up and literally carrying him blocks away?
A mob of people are carrying you. What are you supposed to do?
He really did not want to interact with them. He was trying to avoid any type of physical altercation. So he tried to grab the sawhorse. He tried to do what he could do. But once they started picking up, he just went with it.
It's a mob.
And they dropped him. It hurt, as you would expect. It was on concrete. But he started brushing himself off. And at that point, he was thinking, well, maybe I should go home. But
this reminds me of the story of Stephen
so
in the
found
Bible.
Another spot,
in
and he started reading the book of John again. But regrettably, some other protesters
He's a very determined pastor.
Came up and one knocked him down. Another grabbed his shoe for some reason. They just grabbed his shoe. And then finally, after all those things, the police arrived. They were in the...
Wow, where was the police the whole time? Where was the police this whole time? This dude's getting thrown around, beat around. Look, I'm just saying, if this was a different type of protest, and not protest, if this was like someone's doing some kind of crazy thing on the side of the road, no one's gonna come over and drag them off. But as soon as a pastor starts preaching about the gospel, trying to share the word with those that may or may not already know, well, actually, based on this scenario, they all don't know because they're dragging him away like a mob. It honestly reminds me of Bible times. Like they dragged Stephen off, or that one time they dragged, not they didn't drag Stephen off, they stoned him, and that one time they wanted to drag Jesus off, but he just walked straight through the midst of them. This is what it's reminding me of. In America, of course, America.
Vicinity the whole time, but they didn't intercede until this point. And this is where
Look, the police were there the whole time and didn't do anything.
The police did not come to help Pastor Meineke.
Nope.
Rather, they told him he was the problem. And so at that
That's
point,
crazy.
They said, you have to leave. You have to leave the area. You can no longer speak with people. And Pastor Meineke just knew he had a First Amendment right to share his views. And so he wasn't just willing to walk away. He tried to reason with the police officers, but they arrested him. And they
Some
held him
police
for several
officers
hours in a detaining cell until after the abortion rally had ended, really thwarting his opportunity to share the gospel.
Okay, wait. So what I'm wondering is this rally, from what I'm guessing, since Antifa and them were there, it's pro-abortion, which means it was a rally about supporting abortion. And apparently they're all fine with that. All the pastors are all there. They're all not the pastors, sorry. Let me correct what I'm saying. Apparently they're all fine with that. The mob's fine with that. Antifa's fine with that. All the protesters and stuff. But as soon as a pastor goes over there and starts preaching the gospel, everyone drags him off, throws him on the ground, rips up his Bible. Like that's
Can I interject for a second to ask a question? Because part of this that sounds very disturbing to me, outside of the free speech part of this, which we'll talk about religious liberty, you had other people physically grabbing a Bible, ripping pages out of it, picking him up, carrying him, dropping him. That would be violence, essentially, in all of those instances, and physical contact. Were any of those people arrested, held accountable, or even talked to by the authorities, as far as you know?
They were not. And that was really
interesting. I wonder why. It's like it was scripted to happen like that. Some paid people to go mess with this pastor, a whole mob, and the fact that none of these people got look. Let's look at this. So I'm gonna compare this to a different scenario. I know it's completely different, but January 6th, all the the Capitol incidents and all that, all those people, or supposedly they all got what's it called? They all got trialed, or a lot of them got trialed, not all, but a lot of them got trialed. But for something like this scenario, those two scenarios are completely different from each other. But for this scenario, the fact that none of these people got tried, got held accountable for what they did, the police weren't helping. The police were actually helping the mob do stuff to this pastor. Yeah,
disturbing that all these things happened in front of police officers, and apparently they just let it go because, to our knowledge, no one.
So
was
I guess
even,
this whole thing was
addressed.
About a year or two ago.
No one
that the
was
incident actually
arrested.
happened. They said 2022
because the police officers, pursuant to their policy, figured that it was Pastor Meineke that was the problem, and so because of that stance, they only addressed him and him alone.
Charge were they essentially holding him?
They had a policy in place based on a law of obstructing a police officer, and what they based it on is they had this policy that if someone is speaking and there is a hostile reaction to it, then they will ask the speaker to leave or to stop the activity. And if they do not, then the police officer will ask that person to move. They refer to it as a time.
This is America. This is literally it's freedom of speech. And what? Several big things. One, the pastor is out there he's preaching the word of God. He's not being rowdy, hostile to anyone. The mob is being the one that they're literally no. The fact that the police are fine with this whole abortion rally, but as soon as one single pastor starts preaching the gospel, That's obviously they don't want
Time,
the
place,
message
and
spread.
manner, which
They don't want the
typically
gospel
is
spread.
something that would be constitutional. But the way they employed this terminology is they would require the speaker to leave, so he would not have an audience at all. He couldn't speak to anyone. And if the speaker refuses, then that person is committing a crime. So it's really kind of a backwards way of
It
addressing.
is.
Instead of dealing with the individuals who are actually committing crimes,
Yep.
they were focusing in on a speaker who is really doing nothing wrong. And here with Pastor Meineke doing nothing but reading the Bible. And what we found out was actually this wasn't just an isolated determination by police officers. This was actually part of an overall policy of the police force, because 2 days later at the Seattle Center, which is a public park that's located in downtown Seattle, Pastor Meineke had previously planned to go there as well, because the annual Pride Fest was happening that day. There again, he wasn't really planning on getting into two issues. His purpose was
No, look. They can have a whole pride festival. They can have an abortion rally. And the police are 100% fine with this. The people are 100% fine with this. There's no mobs, there's no riots. But no. They can do all this worldly, sinful activity. But as soon as someone, a pastor or any individual goes and starts preaching the gospel, sharing the gospel, all of a sudden that's a crime. All of a sudden, the hate that they receive.
the gospel, and in the same way, he just read the Bible, and in the same way, he encountered some similar type adverse reactions. It wasn't near as hostile as the pro-abortion group, but still he encountered some things. Some people were doing some inappropriate things in front of him. Some individuals squirted water on him. The police arrived. And what he discovered was that for the same thing as they mentioned 2 days earlier, is that they figured he was the problem and that he had to go.
These police have no brain cells. Police aren't even thinking about the situation. That's kind of crazy.
And when he resisted, that's when he was arrested again.
Yeah, it's essentially the heckler's veto, right? They don't want him there. He has to go. He's not welcome there, which totally disregards, in the way you're describing it, his free speech rights, religious liberty rights. I mean, we don't have to love the speech that we're hearing all the time. So from the perspective of those protesters, they didn't need to like what they were hearing, but he had a right, it sounds like, to be there. And it doesn't just sound that way. There's a legal remedy to this. Talk a little bit about what was found in court and where things stand now in terms of his victory.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Before you said that, so all those people that were putting their hands on me that ripped up my Bible, suing, suing, full extent of the law.
It's a heckler's veto, which essentially it means exactly the way it sounds. Is that you cannot allow the heckler of a speech to be able to censor or shut down that speech. It's a doctrine that has long been recognized by the U.S. Supreme Court, and regrettably, it was just not recognized by the Seattle Police Department. And so we brought suit, and regrettably, we lost at the district court level. The district judge ruled against us. We brought a motion for a preliminary injunction, basically asking the court for relief because Pastor Meineke wanted to go out again. He has this burden to share the gospel.
So the district was basically telling this pastor that he could not go out and preach the gospel, and they rejected the appeal, which is kind of crazy. They shouldn't even have the authority to decide whether he can go preach the gospel. The amount of trash that is out in this world, the amount of trash that's wherever you go, you see it, you hear it. It's like everywhere. No, everyone's fine with that, right? Everyone's happy, everyone's fine. But as soon as Jesus' name is in it, well, what happens? No, I don't want to hear that. No, you can't do this. Block, censored. Block, censored. You can't say this. We only want to hear this. That's not what the world likes.
Gospel, and he really was wanting relief as soon as possible. That was denied. So he took that ruling to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And before a 3-judge panel, it was unanimous. They reversed the court below. They held exactly the way you described it. They said this is a heckler's veto. It's unconstitutional. and said that, and they gave instructions to the district court to give him the preliminary injunction he was seeking. So that really then left, okay, what do we do with the remainder of the case? And the city at that point saw the writing on the wall. The Ninth Circuit had ruled, they held this as a heckler's veto, and at that point we're able to enter into a consent order.
Thank goodness, thank God that there's some judges out there on the higher level of judges that have some common sense and have a brain. Like some of the judges in the Supreme Court, or the justices, some of the even the judges on like the higher levels for the districts. Thank God that they actually have some brains, because if they were all just like this first court that denied this man, denied his appeal, and that banned him from preaching the gospel in that area, we would be cooked. We would be doomed.
Which gave not just preliminary
in America,
relief,
by the way,
but permanent relief for Pastor Meineke so that he can go back to the streets of Seattle and share the good news.
So he will get attorney's fees, reasonable expenses as well in this, right? That's part of this victory.
That's right. He received some compensatory damages because he was falsely arrested on two separate occasions.
Yep.
And then also is something that's known as nominal damages, which is symbolic, but it's still important because what it represents is a vindication. It recognizes a violation of his constitutional rights, and then also attorney's fees and expenses as well. So it was a complete, full victory for Pastor Meineke.
During this time from 2022 until 2024, when this was resolved, was he able to go out and preach at all, or did he pull back from doing that because of the arrest that he had faced?
Well, I think he had intentions on holding back. He really did, but he just couldn't really help himself because he really wants to go out there and share the gospel. So, and he actually encountered a third arrest for reading the Bible while the case was up.
This dude, I don't know what's okay. I don't know. I guess Seattle's a very, dark state then. I didn't even know. But this dude's on the streets of Seattle getting arrested 3 times in the span of a year.
Ongoing. But once we obtained the preliminary injunctive relief, then Pastor Meineke was let alone. He's able to go out, share the gospel, and again, just purely reading the Bible.
So final question for you as we look at this. With this situation, obviously it sounds like this was a policy of the police. And of course, this is one case. It's a big case in light of what has unfolded. But what happens next in terms of the police and their policies? Will it change? Is there any sort of control that this case has or sway over those policies?
Most definitely. And I think in a couple different respects. One is certainly with this particular policy, with this heckler's veto, which they had in essence made part of police policy, that is no longer there. They are enjoined. They cannot do it. If so, that they'll be answerable to the court. And also, I think there's also another benefit of this ruling, and that is the police have been put on notice that if someone is peaceably speaking, you need to acknowledge those rights. You need to allow them to.
Okay, that's the whole video right there. Yeah, this is America. This is persecution, and honestly, it's kind of, I don't want to say this, but it's kind of like the level 1 persecution, because as bad as it was for this pastor, there's other Christians in other countries that go through 10 times worse than getting arrested. So, yeah, persecution's here. It's coming. It's coming slowly, but it is surely here. And you don't really hear that much about it either. So, when it actually does fully occur, it will catch you off by surprise. Anyways, let me know what you think. Comment them down below in the comment section. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a blessed day.